Hello, and welcome to my shitty cellar. How are you doing on this epic day? Horrible, terrible, bad, not so good, I hope. See, I changed the intro so this video is unique automatically. I have a question for you. If you were able to eat a mermaid, is that considered seafood or cannibalism? Is it wrong to put the mermaid burger in my mouth, or am I okay to grab out my sport and say, this is some good fucking food? Today's story takes place in the summer of 2016, June 18th to be precise. It's about how I broke my fucking leg, if the title wasn't obvious, and honestly, I see it as a good thing. Sounds weird, but I went through a horrible phase through 2014, 2016, where I just had a Britney Spears style breakdown. The reason I say her specifically is because it's the perfect example. I was a goofy, goody-goody, two-shoe nice kid who wanted to be as nice as possible and be friends with everyone. But I lived in an abusive household. I never really had any real friends. And I got picked on by my own brothers at home, my egg donor at home, pretty much everyone at school. So then and I didn't have an Xbox, but I had my Xbox. But even then, I was starting to hang out with one person who was. I'm not blaming him for any of my actions or anything. It was all on me. I was a shitty person, but I looked at him as an older brother, and he was kind of a shitty dude. So I started I'm not saying copying him, but I shared the shitty attitude of oh, I'm a badass and I'm the center of the earth. This is my story. I am the main character. Without getting into any specifics, the best way I could phrase it in a smaller, phrase is I treated everyone like shit. I used people. I hurt people. I was a very bad kid back when I was 13, 14. Because I was just in a very bad mental place. Me breaking my leg was actually the start of me calming that down and starting to become myself again, like who I am today. Those 2 years are the worst years of my life, and it hurts to look back on and think of the fucked up shit I did, because I'm one of those people where when I try to sleep at night, my brain tries to open up a movie theater to present to me every single cringy or embarrassing memory that's ever happened in my life. Every terrible decision I've ever made. It doesn't matter. It could be something very small and minor. One specific, I accidentally burped in this dude's face. It just came out, so it happens. And to this day, that was 2013. To this day, I still think about that and I feel like a horrible person. Even though that dude, I don't even think he even remembers who I am, let alone that incident. Anyway, let's get back into the story, shall we? My older brother was going into the military in less than a week, and my family was throwing a goodbye party for him before he was sent out. They decided to throw the party at this big-ass public park that was always, and I mean always, filled with people. In the state I live in, this place, as a kid, was like a wonderland. It was a beautiful, relaxing hangout spot. You can go with friends. It was huge. It was a ginormous park. Every 4th of July, they do fireworks, so you could have hundreds of people chilling in the park, looking up in the sky, and in the center they'll be lighting off fireworks into the sky. It's really cool stuff. It's a very popular park. But on this day, I got woken up at 7 a.m. by my dad, who forced me along to help him set up for my brother's party. I remember giving my dad an attitude and being all butthurt that I had to be the one to help out. He pretty much said, deal with it, and we went to Grandma's house to grab some shit. To be honest, I don't remember why we were there. Maybe to grab cookies and party stuff. Maybe some balls, footballs. My dad's old footballs when he was a kid to throw around. I genuinely just don't know. My dad actively ignores her calls a lot because every time she calls, it's usually about something dumb and mundane. then we'll proceed to just talk about everything that's everything. It was no different here, and I was gonna get myself there. I was gonna get stuck there like my dad, having to listen to her yap about everything that's everything. So I quietly stepped away and started walking around the block, just reliving nostalgic moments I had there in that neighborhood. Fun time. After about 10 minutes, I go back and my dad is still sitting there on the porch wanting to see what a bullet tasted like. I laughed at him, honestly. After she finally, and I mean finally, got done yapping for 35 minutes, we left and stopped at the store. Walmart has these humongous subs, like a few feet long without exaggeration. It makes Subway's foot long sub look like a fucking centimeter. These things were huge. The reason why the subs were so long is because they were pretty much family subs. You know how you get a bag of chips and then the family size bag? That's pretty much what the sub was. You're supposed to cut it into smaller pieces so you can divide a giant sub into smaller subs for multiple people. You get the picture. Have you ever had one of those from Walmart? I never really liked them too much. They tasted okay, but nothing like spectacular. It's just Walmart brand stuff, you know. They bought extra every time just so my dad could take like 3 of them home for us to have for dinner for the next couple days. So that's why he always got like a bunch of those. Anyway, after we grabbed those massive subs and other shit like chips and plates, we finally were on our way to the park. Once we arrived, it was packed even at 8:30 in the morning. But did we find one of those hangout spots at every park with tables? Yes, we did. My egg donor and other brother, not the military one, were there already putting up the streamers and whatnot. So my dad and I joined in and started setting up food and all this and that. I remember after all of the shit was set up, me and that brother came together and just started bitching. We were just both butthurt that we got dragged out of our house to do this stuff when our parents could have chosen the other 400 kids in the household. I had 6 brothers and 1 sister, so it's not like they didn't have a selection. Also, side note, 6 was the number of brothers I had until I found out just a couple years ago that my dad is a slut.
Fuck.
I'm not trying to insult the guy, but there's no word to use to explain it other than that, because my dad was just a slut, let's be real. The reason I'm calling him that is because I found out I had 2 brothers that I never even knew about for most of my life, and he admitted to my other brother that there could potentially be other brothers that I have or sisters that I have out there that he doesn't even know about. All with different women, by the way. So yeah, slut is the right word. Relatives start showing up in the span of an hour and a half. Then finally, the brother of the hour finally shows up with some of our other relatives. One of them picked up the rest of the siblings too with them so they could all arrive at the party. I just chilled with the same brother for a while, just, talking until my youngest brother tells me to follow him. This brother was about 4 years old at the time, and he wanted me to play on the playground equipment with him. I followed him and watched, but that was it. I didn't want to get on and play because, you see, I was a big boy now, and at the ripe age of 14, I couldn't get caught playing on children's equipment. Plus, there were a few other little kids, and I don't want to look like a little baby man. At least that was my mindset at the time. But eventually, he started to beg and beg until I finally reluctantly went over and climbed on. It was one of those dome things made out of pipes, by the way. This is what I'm talking about. After a few minutes of playing on the pipe dome with him, he got off and was beneath me, like inside of the dome. My phone fell out of my shorts pocket right next to his feet. Oh my god. Guess what this little shit does? He looks at my phone, slowly looks up at me, looks me dead in the eyes, and gives me the most shit-eating grin I've ever seen a little kid have. And he quickly grabs my phone and darts out of there. And because he's a 4-year-old, you know, a literal small child, he was able to crawl out of the dome pretty much in a second and just start sprinting. I, on the other hand, since I was a bigger kid and was hanging upside down, I had to drop down to my feet and then get on my hands and knees and crawl out one of the triangle holes of the dome a little slower so I don't bash my head or shoulders or anything into the pipes. But once I'm out, I finally start chasing after him. But because it took me so long to get out, that gave him such the distance, so I had to actually run to catch up to him. You'd think it'd be easy to catch up to a little kid running, but this little fuck played football, wrestling, and was always outside, so he was definitely in shape. We are about a football field away from where the rest of my family is at, and I'm chasing towards him. Let me just set the scene real quick. My little brother stole my phone and I was chasing him in grass that was still wet as fuck. And then it happened. I stepped onto a piece of ground that wasn't leveled, and it went downward. It was kind of like a little slope, about like 3 inches if I had to guess, deep. And my foot got caught, and as I slipped, I landed right onto my leg. Here, I'll show you a quick demonstration on how I fell real quick.
I try to record this as best as I can, but pretty much I was running and he dipped this way, so I took a step like this and tried to turn this way, but as I stepped, I slipped, leg went bam, and I fell down right on it like that. So, douche. Ram. But I fell directly straight onto it that way. That's how I fell.
When I landed, it let out this nasty pop that I can still hear to this day. The second I landed on the ground, I wasn't in any pain whatsoever, but I somehow immediately just knew my leg was broken. It had this numb yet heavy weight to it, and I couldn't even move it a bit on my own. The whole processing of the situation only took like maybe 4 seconds at most, and then the panic set in. I've never to this day have ever had a worse panic attack in my life. This one, I think, has been the biggest one to date. I started rolling back and forth, just desperately screaming for help, and that my leg is broken, please, somebody help me, please, my leg is broken, somebody help me. I'm not even exaggerating. That was pretty much, I was screaming that like tearfully. I was screaming it like if I was dying, but obviously it wasn't that serious. I've never experienced anything like crazy, or at least an injury that crazy before, or intense. So it completely caught me off guard and made me have the worst panic attack to the point where I didn't even care if I looked like a little bitch or a pussy or anything under the sun. I was just tears down my face, freaking out, just pleading for help. Obviously, it's, nowhere near anything serious, like I said, but I still just had a horrible panic attack there. I'll forever hold that memory of me screaming for help like that, just rolling back and forth. You know that video of Patrick Star where he's just like twirls up his ass and he's just rolling around because it hurts so bad? That was essentially what I looked like, except I was holding my leg instead. I have it in the script that I can't imagine, but that was probably the best description right there. So I guess I can imagine in a way. My dad and one of my older brothers were standing, or I guess sitting, at the party thing, and they were just confused. They heard the pop. They were looking left and right, like, what was that? But then it didn't take them long to hear me screaming for help and whatever. And that's when my dad and my I said three brothers, but it could have been just relatives. I think one brother was there. Yeah, there was one brother that was there, but I think the rest were just relatives. Maybe, I don't know. Can't remember. It was almost a decade ago. Oh shit, wait a minute. It did happen over a decade ago. Ugh, I'm old. I feel very old now. Thank you, Reject, for making me feel old. And you too, David. Look, don't get all mad that I'm blaming you. You're just an easy target. You're just right there to blame, okay? My dad and that one older brother and whatever relatives or brothers that were there at the time kind of stood over me, surrounded me, checking up on me, making sure I'm okay. My one older brother that was there with my dad, he was the abusive one, not the military one. But my dad, he was holding my hand and I was squeezing it tight, just freaking out, he's just making sure I'm okay. What a legend. And I can't say the same about my brother though. Um he looked at me in my eyes and he gave me a bigger smirk than my younger brother gave me just a few minutes prior. And he just goes, "Hey, you fallen and you can't get up. Do you need life alert?" This fucking asshole. Oh man. Even though I was having a panic attack and freaking out, even I just started cracking up. Everyone around me started cracking up. It's just the perfect kind of joke at the right time. Obviously, if someone gets shot, it's like, he took a back shot. That would be insensitive, but like I said, this isn't anything serious, just leg break. So at the time, it was kind of funny, okay? Even I have to admit that. Oh, and you want to hear the worst part? My youngest brother, who literally broke my ankles, he disappeared. He wasn't even there to check on me, see if I was okay. No, this dude, he got so scared that he's gonna get in trouble that he booked it. He was hiding on the opposite side of the park, just so he would get yelled at. Probably by me, but like I was too distracted, so I probably wouldn't have even processed he was there anyway. It was just something I've now realized that like his little ass didn't even check on me. He just break my leg, poof, gone. I demand an apology from you, you little shit. I don't know if you're watching this. I'm pretty sure my sister will make you watch this clip after she hears it. But like, I deserve an apology, you little shit. He then said he needed to stick a needle in my arm so then they can put some yummy, yummy drugs in to help with my leg. Mmm. If I haven't said this before, then let me say it now. I have 3 phobias: heights, centipedes, and yes, needles. My phobia of centipedes are so bad I couldn't even put an image on screen because that means I'd have to look at one. My panic jumped back up like Shawn Michaels after a running forearm, but I thankfully could actually contain my freak out on the inside when he pulled out the needle. I turned my head away, gritting my teeth, squeezed my dad's hand extremely tight, and I clenched my eyes just really as closed as I possibly could. Once the needle stuck in my arm, I just wanted to cry. I think it's the concept of a tiny needle puncturing your skin that just gives me the heebie-jeebies, like those beetles from The Mummy. You can call me a pussy all you want, but at least I'll be 100% and won't sugarcoat shit and lie trying to make me seem like a badass or whatever. At that point in my life, I thought I was a badass, but I just got served a fresh slice of humble pie. But yeah, I hate needles, and getting that shot was almost as bad as breaking my leg to me, but thankfully it didn't take forever. Once he put the yummy drugs in my system, he sat there and talked with me for a bit. I'm thinking he did just so the drugs could have a chance to settle in my system, so moving my leg would be a little bit easier, not cause me so much pain. If that was the case, then that dude is a legend for that. But also, he didn't do it long enough because let me tell you, even him getting his fingers underneath my ankle, it felt like uh he was just grabbing my pure bone and just squeezing it, even though all he was doing was just slightly moving his fingers underneath my ankle. When my leg got moved even the slightest bit, even just a tad, it just hurt so bad. It was one of the worst pains of my life to this day. With every slight movement, it felt like someone was just beating my leg with a metal hammer. He raises it up a bit, but I couldn't help it. I let out a whimper or a harsh groan. I finally was lifted onto a stretcher very, very gently, and I really, really appreciate it. Even if putting my leg down onto it was the worst part. They put it down gently, but I think it was the weight of my leg laying on itself once again, and my leg just wasn't ready for it. That's what caused it so much just agony as he slowly laid it down onto the stretcher with the rest of my body. When he did though, I let out a scream, honestly. Not like a horror movie, somebody's getting chased scream, but just like a light one, you know what I mean? I still can remember that sharp, brutal feeling of that day. It just makes me want to instinctively grab my leg and try to comfort it, even though it doesn't actually hurt right now. Just the instinct. At this time, I was still feeling the shock, or maybe the drugs finally kicked in. I don't know, to be honest. But I was able to be calm and have actual conversations, unlike how I was earlier. I don't remember much about being in the back of the ambulance except for one thing. I was laying there, the medic to my left, my dad to my right. I looked at my dad with like a total childlike awe and just looked around the ambulance and was just like, this is my first time being in an ambulance. It's so cool. They both chuckled, and I just kept looking around trying to make time slow down in my head just so I can just experience this cool experience just a little bit longer. I wanted to hang in the ambulance as long as I possibly could because, like I said, I thought it was one of the coolest things ever. And I don't want to have to get into the back of an ambulance over some kind of life-threatening injury or anything like that. So I wanted to try to make time slow down right then and there. We finally arrive at the hospital, and I'm going to be real, I don't remember what happened next. The next thing I can physically remember was that I was in a hospital bed talking and joking with one of the nurses about my damn leg. No matter what I do or how long I sit and ponder, I just can't remember how I got from the ambulance to the hospital bed, or if it was a painful experience. The doctor showed me my x-ray of my leg where the bone broke. Normally, I probably would have been like very hesitant to look. Even now, when I cut myself and I know it's bad, I struggle to bring myself to look at it because of the fear of it'll be so bad. So you'd think I'd have the same reaction here, but it was the exact opposite. I was super intrigued and was like, yes, 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 I want to see it. I want to see it. She showed me and I was just absolutely amazed. I thought it was the coolest thing right next to being inside of the back of an ambulance. So I asked if I could take a picture. She laughed at my excitement and agreed. So I handed her my phone and she took it a fantastic picture. I do indeed have the picture of it, and I'm going to show it on screen. So if you don't like pictures of x-rays of a broken bone, then look away for a minute. As you can see, I had a clean snap so good, it satisfies my eyes because it isn't a jagged line. You can see right here that it's just hanging on by the tiniest thread right there. Just a teeny bit of bone. My doctor told me if I fell a few inches wrong, then I would have snapped it completely. I'm not exactly sure what she meant by a few inches wrong, but yeah, my bone was hanging on by the tiniest of threads. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this part. My shoe on the leg I broke, it fell off when I got transferred to the hospital. Well, it fell off when I broke my leg, but I didn't have it when I got transferred to the hospital. More of what I meant to say. My oldest brother walks into the hospital room after I get the picture, and he waves my shoe around while saying, "Oh, I think you dropped something." Everyone let out a big laugh, and I was surprisingly in a good mood. I want to say it was probably because of the drugs that put me in a good mood, but I'm not sure. I wasn't like in feeling any like crazy high or any high whatsoever. I just felt normal, but my leg just felt numb. I knew I couldn't move it or anything, but it just felt totally numb with no pain whatsoever. If anything, I was just excited to go home and relax and hop on Xbox to tell Fat Kanda and Nova about, how I broke my leg. They wrapped my leg up and made a homemade splint for me to wear for a few weeks until they put an actual cast on me. Maybe it was to help straighten out the bone before molding my leg into a cast. I don't know. I'm not sure how long I sat there, but it was so long that even John couldn't help mention that it was a long, long time. Mission 2 has started. Getting myself into the car, but this was way worse than Mission 1. Instead of going downwards, my dad and brother had to lift me up and try to slide me into the back seat of the car like a hot dog on a bun. Bless them, but they didn't know how to be anywhere near as careful as the ambulance or the doctors were. They tried to take it slow, but I could physically feel them trying to rush it. My leg kept getting caught and pushed into the seat with force, and my leg at this point dragged on the seat. Just putting myself in my own perspective in this moment is just very difficult. Just makes me cringe and want to squirm around. This experience takes the cake for the worst pain I've ever physically been in. Ugh. It's a bad experience I'd 100% be happy to forget. They eventually got me in there, but at this point, I was quietly bawling because of the crazy pain they unintentionally just subjected me to. The car ride was about 16 minutes, and the whole time I just lay there trying to ignore the unignorable. Mission 3 was somewhere in between Mission 1 and Mission 2 in terms of pain and hardship. The mission was to crutch my way up 8 wooden steps to get into my house. Sounds simple enough, but like I said, lifting my leg even a centimeter was met with absolute terrible pain. Plus, I've never walked with crutches before, so I was never experienced at this point. So, being able to go upstairs, let alone a straight line with crutches, was next to mission impossible. Next to trying to not hurt my already broken leg. I had to take breaks in between each step, and my dad, being the Chad of the day, patiently waited with me and helped me the best he could. Thank you, Dad, for being so patient and helpful to me that day. I know you're my dad and I shouldn't have to thank you, but if egg donor's parenting skills are anything to go by, then I will gladly thank you. It took so long, but I finally managed to get in our house. I slowly crutched my way into my room, the same room I shared with 2 of my younger brothers, and my dad helps me into my bed. My bed wasn't a bed at all. It was a futon mattress laying on top of some stacked totes. My mattress had holes in it and was very worn out, but instead of getting a new mattress, they made this makeshift DIY bed. But in this context, it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise. Picture this. My bed at the time, like my actual mattress was and bed frame was one of those where as if you were getting out of bed, your knees would bend because you were closer to the ground. That was, not good for someone who can't really bend their knee. Since my futon mattress was on like two totes, it was more higher in the air. So if I were to turn out of my bed, it would be like it was completely perfect. The bottom of my feet would touch the floor, but like it didn't have really any pressure on them. It was just the perfect alignment. And then my dad had a big brain move and grabbed this little shelf and put it right next to my quote unquote bed. So then if I didn't want to have to lay back on, my back and play Xbox or do whatever, if I felt like sitting up, I could just turn and lean on my wall and have my legs just laid out onto that shelf as a mini footrest. So again, thank you. That was just such a big brain move, and I have to thank you again, Dad. That was honestly brilliant. With me finally in bed, I can finally now relax. My dad, he let me know that he was gonna go back to the party, but he made sure that I was okay. I had everything I needed, and he didn't leave at all until I was 100% sure that I was okay. So, like I said, again, my dad is just wonderful. So, thank you for the third time, my dad. After he left, I turned on my Xbox to, like I said, I immediately went into a party with Fat Kanda and Nova and just told them the story. They first thought I was joking, but when I had showed them both the picture of my broken leg on Instagram, at least the x-ray, they immediately were like, "Oh, dude, that's crazy. That's crazy." You know, they didn't talk like that, but I don't remember the actual dialogue they said, so we'll just stick with that. I didn't stay on for long because I was just mentally exhausted from all the stress, adrenaline, anxiety, all that stuff I dealt with. So I told them that I was gonna hop on later and play with them. I was just gonna take a quick nap real quick. So we said our goodbyes after I told the story, and I got off and took a well-deserved nap to recharge my batteries that were already dangerously low. I woke up about 2 hours later when my family came home and whatnot. A funny thing is my dad and two of my brothers checked up on me. The rest came home and did their normal things as if, I wasn't taken away by the ambulance today. One of the brothers that checked on me was the military brother the party was for. He gave me a cupcake since I wasn't around long enough to even see them. And he shot me a genuine smile with a line that still cracks me up. "I can't believe you took all the attention away from me at my party." I let out a bit of a chuckle, and then I told him, "Well, you see, I'm good at break, but I'm not so good at dancing." After we laughed and my siblings and dad that checked up on me were done checking up on me, making sure I'm okay, I just hopped back on Xbox and played with Fat Kanda and Nova. And that was pretty much the day my leg decided to split. The worst part of it all was the aches my leg would get. The whole leg felt like 8 heel Triple H's were targeting my leg with their sledgehammers all at once. They were so bad, I genuinely just laid there and held my knee while I suffered every time my leg would just start to ache and throb. The pain was so extreme, I was downing 5 200 milligram ibuprofens every 6 hours on the dot. I'm pretty sure you're only supposed to take 1 to 2, but my leg was in so much pain that 3 wasn't even helping. I remember one night that I was in absolute agony because my leg pain was so unbearable. And the worst part of it was I was completely out of ibuprofen. So I called my dad because he was already out, and I just was so desperate for him that I started to cry beg. To this day, those leg aches are the worst physical pain I've ever felt, and I'd be happy to live the rest of my life not feeling those again. I did say earlier that me getting put into the car with, originally with my broken leg, not the ambulance, the actual car, was like the worst pain, which that is, but I would prefer to go through that than the leg ache and throbs because that's like intense pain, yes, but it's only like a temporary thing. The leg aches and pains just never went away for the longest time. And it was one of those pains that's just like irritating, you know? You can't focus your mind on anything because it's like a do kind of follows your heartbeat kind of pains. It was so bad. So this next part, I pretty much in the script talked about, well, went a bit too much into detail about the abuse I went through as a kid and all this and that. And I'm making a whole huge video way, way later when I'm mentally ready to about talking about all that. It's gonna be a whole thing. So I'm just gonna read a censored version because it's just this isn't one of those videos that needs to get depressing, you know what I mean? But I will read just a little bit of it. Breaking your leg is mostly never a good thing, but in some small ways, it can be depending on the circumstances. I've mentioned a few times now about how my egg donor was very abusive to me and my siblings, hence the nickname for her. But breaking my leg was a good thing because I got to avoid her for a majority of those months. Me being able to hide away in my room, not having to deal with her or her to do anything direct, it was one of the best moments of my life. It's sad to say that, but being any way to escape abuse is just, to me, is phenomenal. Even if I costed my leg for a while, as long as I got away from it, even if it was temporarily, you know what I mean? I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a blast telling it. My youngest brother, I said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again, you little fuck. You better apologize, or I'll get you. I know where you live. You get the drill by now. Out of my cellar, yada yada, something something, ho ass.